Hi, everybody, and welcome to the first day of your masterclass, Say Yes to You. And we're streaming live on Facebook and LinkedIn. Sound just like a broadcaster there, don't I? Now, remember, life will never be the same again when you start getting into this stuff. And make sure you've got a pen and a piece of paper ready if you can. So some good news. You already said yes to you, right? Because you're here, you turned up. And isn't it good that you're doing something just for you? Just take out half an hour of your day and invest the time in you. And I reckon that you're here because you know there is something more out there. You're not quite satisfied with the way that you're living your life at the moment. And you just know you can do better, but it's not happening. It's very frustrating, right? Now I've got some more good news. Actually, when you have an idea, so when you think of something, so for instance, something that you really want to do, it means that you can actually have it, right? Because the idea would not have popped up into your mind if you weren't capable of achieving it. Like I never thought of inventing an iPhone because I probably wouldn't have been able to do that. But I came up with the idea of being a coach because that's what I can do, right? So remember that if the idea comes up in your mind, that means that you can do it. You've got everything inside of you that you need to be able to achieve that. Okay, so the thing is that you're living the way you're living at the moment because that's how you know how to. So you know how to live. You're aware of how to live the life that you're living at the moment. And, maybe you're busy. Maybe you're overwhelmed. Maybe you're stressed. Maybe you're short of money. Maybe you're not fit. But that's just because that's what you're used to now. That's what you are aware of how to do. And that's what you believe is currently possible or isn't possible. So when you come up with those ideas, immediately you probably start telling yourself, well, I can't do that because, right? But that's actually not true, and we're going to get into that. So really, all you need to do is just to become aware of how to live differently, how to do the things you need to do to achieve that goal that you want, right? And it could be anything, right? But most of you are here probably because you're overwhelmed and you're working way too many hours and you want to spend some more time with your loved ones, right? But it could be anything. So all we need to do is become aware of how we need to live that way. And you need to understand how to see yourself and how to become that person with that wish fulfilled, with that goal achieved already. Because the only difference between you and someone else who is living the life you would want to be living is the way that you think. Okay? And it sounds that simple, doesn't it? It actually is, but it's not so easy to do. Okay. But I do have another piece of good news because I'm going to show you how to do it in these next 5 days. And I'm so happy you're here. I'm excited to see you here. So what you need to do is to start seeing yourself. And I keep repeating it because actually repetition is going to make it sink into you. Right? So you'll find that I say a lot of things a few times. Okay. So I'm going to show you how you need to start seeing yourself and how you're going to do that and how you get to really understanding what is actually really holding you back. And it's definitely not any of those things that you tell yourself, right? So it's definitely not any of the things why you tell yourself you can't do it or why you think it isn't possible. Okay. Hold that thought. So to start with any change, to start with any transformation, you have to really start to understand yourself. And that's what we'll learn this week. And I'm really looking forward to that. So you've turned up, you've invested some time, make the most of it. You're here just half an hour, and we're going to start moving you towards what you really, really want. Now, there's a workbook that if you emailed us, we would have sent you the workbook. If not, and you want it, and actually I do recommend that you do get it because it's the written work that's actually going to make some changes for you. And there's more additional information in there as well. So then just message us or email us and we will get that sent to you before the next masterclass session tomorrow. Really key, okay, to have your workbook and your pen and paper ready. All right. So my name's Caddy, or Kath, as most of my logistics and supply chain connections will know me. And I just wanted to say that I am a logistic consultant as well, but everything I do here in the coaching arena is completely confidential, right? So I never sort of mix the two together, just so you know that, so you don't need to worry about that. I'm a mindset and a success coach or a life coach or whatever you want to call me. And what I do is I help people to determine what it is that they really, really want, and then I show you how to get it. And success is a system, right? It's not luck, it's not coincidence, it's not anything. It is a system, and if you understand the system and you follow the rules, then you have to be successful, right? You cannot not be successful, and that's what we're going to start learning about. So today we're going to talk about goals, about what goals are, about what type of goals to set, and then how to achieve them, and also about why desire is so important. So any questions you have, just pop them in the comments, and we'll get to them at the end of the session. If I don't get to them, I will sort of go look back and I will respond to you then later. Okay, so remember, you're here because you believe there's something more out there for you. There's something bigger and better for you to be lived. Okay, so let's go and get to it. So before we start, I want you to do a couple of things. I want you to first make sure that you are present. So if you can and you feel comfortable, just close your eyes and take a deep breath. And just relax your shoulders, relax your body, and let go of the stresses of the day. Right? Take another deep breath and relax your body. You're here. It's half an hour of your time. You're here. Now relax, breathe. Now open your eyes. Okay. Now get your pen and piece of paper. And if you have a goal, I want you to write it down, and I want you to write down how that makes you feel. If you don't have a goal, think about something that you would really want, and write down the first thing that pops up into your mind, and then ask yourself, how does that feel? How do you feel about that? Now, if you're still drawing a blank, just think about how you want to feel when you wake up in the morning and when you go to bed every night. So how do you want to feel during your day? Okay, that's where we start. So I want to play a little game with you now. So think about your car. What color is your car? What color is the interior of your car? How many doors does your car have? How old is it? What's the number plate? Now think about a hot air balloon. Think about a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. Think about your front door. What color is your front door? Does it have glass in it? Now think of your fridge. How many doors does your fridge have? And do the doors open to the left or to the right? Right. So I know that in your mind, you went to your kitchen, didn't you? Because you had to work out and pretend in your mind to open that door to work out whether it opened to the left or to the right. Now, this exercise actually illustrates and tells us three things. It tells us more, but we focus on the three things. So tells you that you can go anywhere in your mind, right? So in your mind's eye, you can think of something and you're there, right? It also means that you are the one that determines, and you are the one that decides, and you control what you think, right? Because when I said hot air balloon, picture of the hot air balloon came up. When I said your car, you thought about your car, and you can do that, right? So you can make yourself direct your thoughts anywhere that you want to direct them to. And it also tells us that we think in pictures. So anything we think about has an image attached to it. Right? And this image is what creates what we call order in our mind. Now, the mind is in one of two states. It's either confused or it is in an orderly state. Okay? And a picture, an image, gives us order, gives our mind order. Because when we are confused, we don't like that feeling. And then we tend to stop thinking about what we're thinking about because we don't want to have that feeling of being confused. Okay? So this is why when we think about our goal, especially if it's sort of a new goal and it's not really very well defined yet, we can't quite picture it yet. So it causes us to feel confused, and then we stop thinking about it. Now hold that thought, because we're going to get more into that tomorrow. Now, the other thing I want to tell you is that everything is created twice, right? First, something is created in our mind, and then in your imagination, and then it is created in your real world. Okay? Now think of the chair you're sitting in, the shoes that you're wearing, the clothes that you're wearing. Think about your TV, your iPhone, an aeroplane, a car. Someone first thought of it, so they first imagined it, and then they created it. Right? So everything is created twice, first in your mind, and then in reality. So we've got to become very conscious what we are creating with our mind, right? So what are the thoughts that you're thinking? Are you creating something that you want by the story you're telling yourself? Or are you creating something that you don't want by the story that you're telling yourself? Really important. And tomorrow we talk about habits and self-image, and we'll get into that a little bit more. So goals. So did you know that the real purpose of a goal is actually for you to grow, right? So the result of achieving that goal is nice. It may be a new car, more money, a holiday, whatever it is. The result is nice, but the real purpose of a goal is to make us grow. Because the thing is, we are part of nature, right? We're human beings and we are part of nature. And nature is progressive and it's always growing. The universe is always expanding. So nature is always growing and always for expansion. So for us to feel good, we have to grow. We have to be expanding. And to grow, we have to create something, because that's what causes it to grow. So we have to work towards something. We have to work towards something that makes us grow, which is why we set a goal. And it's really important to set the right type of goal. So to set a goal that's actually going to make us grow, because remember, to feel good, we've got to be looking forward to something and we've got to be growing. So in my training, we actually work with these C-type goals, we call them. Now, these are goals that represent something that you really, really want. You haven't done it before. And it's something that really excites you and delights you when you allow yourself to think of it properly. And at the same time, scares the bejeebies out of you, right? So it's exciting and fun and all of that, but it's also really, really scary. And it feels scary because you haven't done it before, right? So you don't know how to do it. So we talk about C-type goals in my training, but we have A-type and B-type goals as well. So an A-type goal would be something you already know how to do. That's not the goals that we work with, but it doesn't mean that you can't set an A-type goal. So an A-type goal, you already know how to do it. You've already done it probably loads of times before. Maybe something like, I don't know, buying a car, right? So it doesn't mean you don't buy a car, but it's not the goals that we work with. Then we've got the B-type goal. Now, a lot of people set B-type goals, right? Because a B-type goal means that you think you can do it. It's what you think you can do if certain things happen, right? So if such a body does such a thing, and if such a thing happens, then I'll be able to achieve it. So you make a plan, right? But actually, these goals are quite boring. They don't really excite you and they don't scare you. So anything that doesn't scare you, you're not really on the right path. And there's no growth in it, right? So that's not the type of goal that we're working with, because actually when you first encounter some obstacles, you'll probably give up. That's why a lot of people start something, stop something. Maybe it's you. You think of something, oh, great idea, let's do it, I'll make a plan. Oh, this goes wrong, I'm not meant to have this, it's not meant to happen, and you stop. A lot of people in that vicious circle, right? And this is because they don't have that burning desire to achieve it. And it could also be that maybe it's not even your goal, right? So you're living someone else's goal because you feel that you should, or someone else has made you feel that you should. So the C-type goal is what we are working with. Now, what is your C-type goal? What is it? What do you want? More time? You want more money? You want better health? Maybe you want to improve your relationships. Maybe you want to do a different job, or you want to do the job you have differently. Maybe you want a promotion, start your own business. Maybe you want to retire early. It could be anything, right? So think about, what is your C-type goal, something that would really excite you, but something that would really scare you because you don't know how. And the reason that it scares you is because you don't believe that you can have it. Right? And you don't know how this is going to happen. Now, the great thing is you really don't need to know how. The how is not important at all. You just need to decide the what. Steve Jobs said, you can't connect the dots going forward, but you can always connect them going backwards. Now, what we know is that the dots are always connecting, right? So you really don't need to know how. You just need to start believing that you can. And that's what we help you with. Okay, so first is to decide the what, because the thing is, you don't actually need anything until you've decided on something, right? So what happens is that once you made a committed decision, everything you need will come to you, will come on your path. One of the reasons being that you will start to entertain different ideas, right? Now, I'll give an example here. So until you, for instance, decide that you want to buy a house, you don't need a mortgage, you don't need the money, you don't need a deposit, you don't need a house, you don't need anything until you've decided that you're going to buy a house. Or, you go on holiday, but maybe you're talking about going on holiday, but until you have decided that you're going, you don't need a plane ticket, You don't need a hotel. You don't need a hire car. You don't need anything to do with the holiday. You don't need to pack your clothes until you have decided. Right? So the first thing is to make a committed decision, and you decide that this is what you're going to achieve. And then you've got to start to believe that it is possible, and you've got to start seeing yourself as that person with the goal achieved, because that person with the goal achieved would take a different action, right? They would think differently, they would feel differently, and they would take a different action because you've decided. And guess what? That's going to give you a different result. Action, reaction, basically. The action that we take causes a reaction. It's a scientific universal law. And that reaction is what we call our results. Okay, so I'll give a really quick example, and probably some of the people on the call have heard that before. So my son, Connor, has wanted to be a pilot since he was 5 years old. And because he believed that he was going to be a pilot, he has taken several steps and several actions that have now got him into a training program with EasyJet starting not even 2 months from now. Right? So he's 20 now, and he's held on to that dream until he was old enough to go in and do it. So he took actions like finding a university where he could do an aviation course, going on practice interview training, learn all about the planes, fly all over the place with EasyJet. And so he do what he needed to do at college and at the university. Applied, he failed once, and then he did it again, and he got himself a tutor, and he put all the work in, and now he's got it because he believed that he could do that, right? So when you believe you can do something, you take a completely different set of actions than if you believe you couldn't, right? Now imagine that next door was a little boy who also wanted to be a pilot, but he didn't believe that he could be one. He would have taken none of the actions that Connor took. And guess what? He's not going to be a pilot. If he'd have taken the actions, if he'd have believed it and took the actions, he would now also be living his dream, right? So very important to understand, what do we tell ourselves we can do and what do we tell ourselves we can't do? And if you believe that you can't do it, but you really want it, then that's where I can help you, because I will get you to develop that belief and that self-image that's going to get you to actually achieving your goal. Okay. So once you've determined your C-type goal, you have to ask yourself 2 questions. The first question is, am I able to do this? And most of us will say, yes, we are able to do this. And then the second question is, am I willing? Am I willing to do whatever it takes? And that's basically the creative process. Right now, I'm going to get technical and I'm going to share my screen. So bear with me for a second. Share. Yeah. Now it says I'm sharing, so I hope you can see this. Okay, so the creative process starts with a fantasy, starts with your imagination, starts with the thought. Remember, we said everything first starts in your mind with imagining things. Okay, so you start with the fantasy, and then you ask yourself those 2 questions. And when you've said, a strong yes to those 2 questions, you've then got a theory or a goal that's created your goal, and then you can create a plan of action. And then ultimately, that will turn into a fact, right? Because you're taking the action, you're getting the reaction, you're getting the result, and that will then become your reality. Now, the thing is that the plan might change because you're growing, right? And you're changing as you're going through this process. So your plan may change, but your goal and your purpose wouldn't change. Okay? And then guess what? Once that's turned into a fact, probably even before it's turned into a fact, you'll be, on to thinking what your next goal will be. I'm going to stop sharing. How does that work? Okay. Cool. Back again. Okay. Right. So the thing is that we don't feel good when we're not growing. And that's because we have to create. If we're not creating, we are disintegrating. And you'll find that a lot of people who are depressed, and I was one of them not so many years ago, severely depressed and anxious, you'll find that people who are depressed, they don't have a goal. They don't have something to look forward to, something that sparks sort of their energy and sparks their imagination and gives them a good feeling. So this is why people are depressed, because they don't have a C-type goal to work towards. So genuinely, you really probably don't need antidepressants. right? Because if you have a goal, that's what's going to make you feel good. Okay. And one of my clients actually said, she's been working with me for a couple of months, and she said, you know, when she started working with me, she was really anxious and depressed, and she actually had daily thoughts of suicide. And then she said within a week, she knew exactly what she wanted. And a few weeks down the line, she's feeling amazing and she's feeling great. And she's back to her confident self, and she's loving life, right? Because she's allowed herself to start working towards a goal. And the change in her, and it's so humbling for me to see that. It's just amazing from where she was to where she now is. And I love it. And it actually echoes very much my own story. Like I said, I was severely depressed and anxious. And now look at me. I'm living it up and I'm lapping it up, right? I'm loving life. And why not? We're only here once, right? Make the most of it. So a C-type goal requires you to have a vision, to have a picture. And we need to become clear on that picture, right? This is why we will be working with that for a couple of weeks if you did my training. Now, actually, this is where a lot of companies go wrong, because the senior leadership and the CEO or the business owner might have a vision. But when you ask the people sort of further down the line, a lot of them don't really know what the company's overall vision is. And so it means that they can't really work towards that vision together, right? So the thing is that when you have a group of people together, all working towards the same thing, you've got a powerful, powerful team of people, right? Powerful group of people. But how can people be powerful, for instance, in your business, if they don't really understand the vision of your company? Anyway, so I'm doing a workshop on this in April on vision strategy and how to get the best out of you and your people and to multiply productivity and effectiveness of your teams. Anyway, back to the C-type goals. I do digress. That's why I keep looking at my notes, because otherwise I go off on a tangent, as you can tell. Okay. So one of the key ingredients for a C-type goal is desire. Right? So you have to really, really, really want it. Because the thing is, to achieve that goal, you've got to persist. You've got to become very persistent. And you've got to do whatever it takes. Okay. Now, a wise person once said, whatever you perceive and believe through persistence, you must achieve. And persistence is really something you have to develop, because you're not born with it. No one else can really do it for you. And really, no amount of talent, skill, education, personality, none of that's going to make up for persistence, right? Because you can be the most talented person in the world, but if you don't persist, nothing's going to happen. You're not going to have that result that you want. And you really will not achieve anything. Okay? So the only way really to develop persistence is to really, really want something, because that's going to cause you to keep going, because you really, really want it. And so you want it so much that nothing is going to stop you and nothing's even going to slow you down. And so it's really important to have that strong burning desire to keep going. But the problem is we actually very, very rarely allow ourselves to even think about what we really want, to even spend 5 minutes on what we actually really want, right? And so never mind fanning those flames of that desire and turning that into a burning desire that's going to keep you going. Right? Now, why is that? Funny, isn't it? Well, it's because of how we're conditioned, right? So from being very, very little, we're being told by people that we trust, like our parents, what is or isn't possible, or what is or isn't the done thing, right? So if you, I don't know, had a dream and you maybe wanted to be an astronaut, maybe your response was, we don't do that in our family. If you said you wanted to be rich, our family's not rich. We don't do that in our family, right? Or, well, if you want to do that, you'll never make any money doing that. Or you're not clever enough for that. Or you can't do that because how do you think that would make me feel? That doesn't make me happy, right? How many people say that? No, how do you think that makes me feel? Well, that's your problem. This is my life. Okay. And then just on and on it goes. So I'm sure you can come up with some really great examples yourself. This is the story that you've kept hearing, and this is what's created your conditioning, right? So even some of us have been pressured by our parents to follow a certain career path, right? Because your parents thought that's what you should do, but then you're living their life and not your own life, right? So all I say is make sure you don't put that pressure on your own kids, right? It's not fair. So actually most of the things that we've been told, most of the things that we have had conditioned within us are not true. Right? So if you start to reevaluate some of those beliefs that you hold, so think about the goal that you want, think about something that you want, and then ask yourself, what is my belief about this? Why do I think this isn't possible? What's my excuse or my reason why I think I can't do this? And then reevaluate that, right? Look at it from a different perspective. And you will actually realize that most of your beliefs are utter bollocks, basically. Okay. So explore some of those beliefs that don't serve your goal and reevaluate them. Have fun with that one. You've got to dig deep sometimes, right? But it's going to make a massive change for you. So if you allow yourself to just be open-minded, to allow your mind to be open to the idea that it is possible, that what you want really is possible, and then allow some new ideas to flow in, and allow yourself to be vulnerable. Right? Just allow yourself to go, okay, well, I find this really difficult, or I'm not used to this, or no, this is what I really, really want, but I have no idea how I'm going to do that. Just know that whatever you want, you can have, because otherwise you wouldn't want it. And the thing is that when you're working with these C-type goals and you're working, when you're developing that persistence, you're going to meet with parts of yourself that you did not know existed, right? And it's great because you're going to build so much confidence that you can use in all areas of your life, right? Absolutely, give it some serious thought. Now, what I want you to do is close your eyes. If you can, if you're driving, if it's safe, don't, if it's not safe, don't close your eyes. Or if you don't feel comfortable, don't close your eyes. Now, bring to mind that goal. Bring to mind an image of that goal. And if you don't have a goal, bring to mind something that will create that feeling that you want to have, that good feeling, right? So this is about what you really want, what would make you feel really, really good. And then imagine yourself living that. Right? So what would your day look like? What would your week look like? What would your Saturday morning look like if you could live the life you really want to live, if you could achieve that goal you want to achieve? How would you feel? Maybe you can imagine what you'd be wearing, or who you'd be with, or where you would be. What's the weather like? What colors can you see around you? So really start to imagine and to feel that. Now, think how, once you have achieved that, how different you would feel, right? And how does that benefit you? And how does that benefit all of your loved ones, right? If you feel good, you've got way more to give to everybody else. That's why they say in the aeroplane, put your own oxygen mask on first, because if you're not okay, you're no good to anybody else. So make sure you're okay. And a big part of you being okay means that you are pursuing your goals, the things that you want to do. Right? Okay. Well, that's it for today, except I'm going to just check if there are some questions. And tomorrow we're going to talk about beliefs, habits, and self-image. Can't wait for that one. It's so powerful. And really, it's such an amazing insight when you start to understand how the mind works and how we really can make it work for us rather than against us. So how we can start to think empowering thoughts, supporting ourselves instead of arguing for our limitations. Right. So make sure that you read the workbook and you do the exercises just for day one. Have a pre-read for day two if you want. Like I said, if you haven't got the workbook, just message us or email us and we'll get it sent to you before the next session tomorrow. I'll go through some questions now. So let's have a look. I have no idea what I want. How can you help me? Okay, so what I would do is I would help you to determine that, right? And if you really have no idea, and everybody really does know what they want, but sometimes the mind just doesn't allow them to really sort of go there. So the first thing we would do is to work out, how do you want to feel? So what are the kind of feelings that you want to have when you get up in the morning, during the day and in the evening? Now, probably it'd be things like, I want to wake up excited for my day. Maybe you want to add value. Maybe you want to feel good, but what does feel good mean? Maybe you want to feel energized and inspired. Maybe you want to be an inspiration to others. At the end of the day, when you go to bed, you probably want to feel like you've had, you feel fulfilled and you've had a good day and you achieved some of your objectives and you helped people. And you want to, feel that satisfied at the end of the day, right? So start thinking about that. And what will happen when you start giving that thought ideas of what that may look like would start to come up. But I would work through that with you. I know what I want, but I procrastinate all the time. Yeah, I was there too. So the reason we procrastinate, it can be because we just don't want to do it, because we don't like to do the job. And in one of my posts a few weeks ago, I suggested, plan what we call a shitty day. So plan a day in your diary, or a couple of days in your diary, a month, where you just do all the shitty things that you don't really want to do. But we procrastinate really because, one, we haven't made a committed decision that we're going to do something, and two, because we lack confidence, right? So we're worried that if we do it, it may not work out how we want it to work out. And so procrastination has a lot to do with your confidence and indecision as well. I have responsibilities, which mean I can't just go and do something else. Well, a lot of us feel like that, right? So we think, well, I've got to keep working because, I've got a family, I've got kids in college, I've got to pay for this and I've got to do that. Right? And it's such a natural way to feel, because what's happened is that we've been brought up in a certain way, and a lot of us will have been brought up that you have to, get your education, have a 9-to-5 job, or 7 in the morning till 10 p.m. job, and then that's how you sort of earn your money. But you can do all of that in very, very different ways, right? And so what the thing is, and we'll talk about this more tomorrow, is that we have what we call paradigms, or a belief system, or our conditioning. And what that does is, the way that we are conditioned, the way that our belief system works, is what dictates. So our paradigms basically is what dictates our logic. And so we're not able to sort of go outside of that box and to start entertaining different ideas, because your paradigm will pull you back and say, no, that's not how we do it. That's not you. That's not possible. We'll talk about that tomorrow in a lot more detail. Okay, guys, that's me done for you for today. So same time, same place tomorrow. Don't worry if you can't actually make it, because everything will be on the replay. And go and do your workbook. And I will see you tomorrow. Thanks, guys. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye.